Final Destination Bloodlines is the sixth film within the Final Destination franchise. It's the first one in over a decade, and it has now been 25 years since the original Final Destination, which makes me feel incredibly old, but I'm so happy that this new generation gets such a good Final Destination film, and I hope we get more. This film is pretty great. Now, this franchise means a lot to me as it holds a special place in my nostalgia, and it's mostly due to how creative the death scenes are within these films. If you've never seen a Final Destination film before, essentially someone gets a premonition that a lot of people are going to die, and they stop that from happening. And because they have cheated death, death is now after them and will try to kill them in the order they were supposed to be killed. And so the fun in this franchise is seeing all the unique and creative ways that death finds these people. And I think it also sparks this curiosity that a lot of people have of just different ways you can die. And if you're not a sicko that thinks about those sorts of things, this franchise will probably ignite that within you. I don't remember specifically when I saw my first Final Destination film, but that title and the name was always something within my consciousness. People would just talk about it, especially kids my age. You would see certain clips, even if not the full film, or you would just hear the death scenes described to you by people who have seen them. And so because of that, there was an entire generation who was scared of certain situations, like tanning booths, roller coasters, trucks carrying logs down the highway. And this film manages to capture that magic, take these very specific situations and gets you to question whether or not those things could actually kill you. But why I think this film works so well and stands kind of far above some of the mediocre films in the franchise, because trust me, there are some stinkers. This film really does expand on the lore within the franchise, which is not something I originally thought we needed more of. A lot of these films follow a pretty straightforward formula, and while this film does sort of stick to that, the starting place is much more unique than any of the other films. It really does open the world, connecting all the films without having a ton of cheesy callbacks, although there certainly are Easter eggs and little tidbits that you might pick up referencing the other films. The way that it expands the universe and connects all the films together is really smartly done. And I'm not going to give too much of the plot away because I wasn't sure of the specifics and not sure how much is told in the trailers or marketing, but with the title Bloodlines, there are some assumptions you can make with that. And I honestly just think it's really clever. It both follows the formula while also mixing it up. Now, with that, I will say the first half of it felt a bit slow or just off with the pacing because there's a lot of exposition that needs to be told. Not only are you having to explain the rules of this universe to a new generation who this might be their first Final Destination film, you're also having to create these new rules that have never been introduced until this film. And so with that, the dialogue does feel a bit clunky at times, and it takes a minute to finally get to the plot. But once you're there, you're just having a good time. And in fact, this is probably the funniest film within the entire franchise. And also much more sincere. I felt like I was connecting much more with the characters compared to other films, which honestly got me a little bit worried because there were times where I'm like, are we really going to kill some of these people off? But this film manages to balance that really well, making you care about them, but also not shying away from showing you that nobody is safe. So if you are a fan of this franchise, I don't think you're going to dislike this movie. It pretty much gives you everything that is expected when going to see a Final Destination film. And if you are new to the franchise, I think this is a fine entry point. I don't think it's my favorite one. I still think the original one is still my favorite, but only due to how novel that idea was at the time. There's just something so special about it being the first, even though I know many others don't consider it to be the best. But outside of that one, this one might be better than all the others. I'm of course very curious to see how this is received with modern movie audiences. There's part of me that wonders if this is just too violent of a franchise to latch on to popular culture. But if I think you are going to bring some fresh life into this franchise, you couldn't have done it any better. It's a great time at the theater if you want thrills and horror, and I very much did enjoy every moment within this film. So those are some of my brief thoughts on Final Destination Bloodlines. Have you seen the film? If you've seen it, please comment below and let me know what you thought, and I will see you next time.